So animals, they don't have a choice. They may be the victims of abuse, the victims of being overbred, the victims of being in a household that doesn't feed them or provide medical care. And it breaks my heart to see them suffering. And I'm just so glad that every day, even though I may be a drop in the bucket in terms of how many animals we can help, I'm just so glad that we can be here for the ones in need.
Imagine that you could never see another sunrise or watch your loved ones grow up. And yet you know that if you ever lost your eyes, you would still live. For most dogs and cats in the US, this is not true. Most often, if you lose your eyes as a dog, you lose your life. Jordy suffered severe damage to both of his eyes from abuse and was removed from his guardian's home. This is Jordy's story.
Here's an animal that would not have stood a chance of being taken into a shelter environment with all this work necessary to take care of the medical problems and to rehabilitate the dog so it make a wonderful companion for someone.
So I said, yes, we have to take, I mean, it was a fluffy white dog that I knew was in pain. We ended up taking him and caring for him in the hospital, and I know those guys did an amazing job taking care of him, and they always have that little bond that they, every time a dog comes to the hospital, or a cat for that matter, I always get the techs and the doctors following up, make sure that they're doing well, and who did I adopt them to, and how are they doing, have you heard any stories? I fell in love with them, and I was like, no, I can't get a dog, I don't want a dog. And I was like, okay, I'm going to detach myself. I don't see him all the time. So I was like, oh, there's Jordy. No, I can't say hi. I can't say hi. I love him too much. And then finally I broke down. I was like, no, I love this dog so much. I have to figure it out. I have to make it work. Even still, his little personality is emerging. I think the more confident he grows, you can see how he gets more curious. He becomes more puppy-like. I kind of fell in love with this guy.
Imagine, what if the doctors told you that you had 3 to 6 months to live? Your first impulse would almost certainly be to be with the people that you love. For cats and dogs that face life-threatening illnesses, most everywhere in the country, they do not get to live out their days surrounded by loving owners and other animals. Nona is 11 years old and has malignant lymphoma, which comes with a prognosis of 3 to 6 months to live. Recently, the San Francisco SPCA started a FOSPIS, Foster Hospice program, so that Nona and many others like her could end their lives with dignity and love. This is Nona's story.
I've always been more of a fan of the older cats at the shelter, the ones that really pull at my heartstrings. And it broke my heart that she was 11 years old, faced with this illness, and she no longer had her family. That it wasn't really a tough choice for me to make. It just seemed like the right thing to do. Nona particularly, you know, every time she leans in for like a harder scratch on her chin, or, you know, I get a purr right away when I put her food down, in the back of my mind I'm thinking, this may be one of the last times this happens. And that's a really sort of difficult thing, but also kind of a rewarding thing. It's almost like a spiritual connection that we're getting to spend this time with Nona kind of at the end of her life. And everything seems very important. You know, there's like a extra level of import kind of with each day of play, or each day of scratching, or each day of letting her drink from the water tap.
For 140 years, in a city named for the patron saint of animals, the San Francisco SPCA has shown extraordinary compassion towards our city's animals.
In other words, when I travel to places that are horrifically depressing, the way animals are housed and the way animals are treated, personally, it gives me it gives me great hope, and it's incredibly inspirational to come back to this community and this facility, in particular this new hospital, and see what can be done.
With the Leanne B. Roberts Animal Care Center, a new chapter is opening. New hope for the Geordies and the Nonas and hundreds of thousands of other animals. Help us to continue the legacy of love and compassion and build stronger bonds between the next generation of people and animals in San Francisco. Your generous support makes it all possible. Thank you.